Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I'm going to be talking about more TV shows that I have enjoyed this year. I did a video earlier this year talking about some TV shows that I've watched on various platforms and I think a lot of you quite liked that video. Some of you have even got in touch with me and recommended me other shows, which I love because the one show that you all recommended me, Midnight Mass, I absolutely loved it. And so it's always great to be able to have conversations about the different types of media that we all consume. So I wanted to do another video before the end of this year talking about other shows that I've watched. I'll probably do 1 or 2 videos a year now as part of my channel, just talking about stuff that I've been consuming. So let's jump into this one. So the first 2 I'm going to talk about are not actually TV shows, they're movies. I know I'm cheating, but it's okay. I don't typically watch movies that often now just because I think the quality of movies has just gone really downhill. I think TV shows are so much better these days. I also like the fact that a lot of them, you know, you can watch an episode a day and it's not going to take up too much time. Unless you're watching a Korean TV show, in which case an hour and a half is the minimum expectation. Conversation for another day, but I did watch these 2 movies and I want to recommend them if you haven't seen them because I think they're both great. The first one was a documentary film and that was My Octopus Teacher on Netflix. We are following a filmmaker as he develops an unusual friendship with an octopus. It's one of the most beautiful stories I've ever consumed. Like, it's very touching. And the fact that our filmmaker develops an emotional bond with this octopus is just really special. Like, I felt like I was witnessing a very special relationship developing. And I know that sounds really weird because it was with an octopus, but octopi are very smart. I think it's octopi, right? Octopi are very smart. Seeing the way that the octopus would like recognize him there was just something so incredibly touching about it, and it was very beautifully shot. I think it's about 1 hour and 30 minutes, and I remember just watching it like one Sunday morning when I was just I didn't want to read and I just wanted to watch something. I just came away from it feeling incredibly touched, and I think you should go watch it if you haven't, because it's a very moving story, like very, very beautifully told as well. Strongly recommend. The next movie that we have, and this is the last one, we have Tetris on Apple TV Plus. This was great. I wasn't really looking for a movie, but my brother came to visit me and we wanted to watch something, and we went on Apple TV Plus. We saw Tetris, and Tetris is based on a true story. It's based on the guy who basically made Tetris mainstream in America. The creator of Tetris was Russian. I think he's still alive, is Russian. And it's basically about the friendship that develops between this American man and this Russian man when he tries to essentially buy the licensing rights for Tetris so he can sell it in Asia. Now, that's going to sound a bit convoluted and maybe doesn't fully make sense. Take my word for it. It's just this incredibly beautiful story about how this game that we've all played at some point in our life. I still play Tetris now and then today. Love it. It's fantastic. But it's about how this like very niche game became like completely mainstream, but we see it before it becomes completely mainstream. Like, we know where it ends up, which is just that it's like one of the kind of most played games online, but we don't see the aftermath because we've all experienced that. It's more the lead up to get to that aftermath, and it's about these different characters as they try to problem solve their way through the very damaging relationship between America and Russia at the time. And then there's also Japan coming into it too. It's just great. Like, really, really great storytelling. The script, the music, the characters, the actors that they picked to play the characters, everything was perfect. It was really, really good. It's also quite a short film. And one thing I really loved about this film is there were like these little animations between different sections of the movie. It just added a flair to the film that you didn't know you needed, but it just added to it. Like, absolutely fantastic. Strongly recommend. All right, we're now going to move on to shows. I think I've got like 7 or 8. The first show I'm going to recommend is actually a documentary, and that is Missing, the Lucy Blackman case on Netflix. And I decided to watch this because I read about the Lucy Blackman case last year, like when I started to really get into Japanese. Now, one aspect of Japanese culture that I've always found really interesting is the concept of hostesses and hosts. And these are people that essentially get paid a lot of money by generally kind of working class men, but sometimes also very wealthy men and women, to essentially act as like a kind of partner to them. It's not quite the extent of the word that I'm not going to say because I don't want to get demonetized, but it's not quite to the extent where there's not a physically intimate relationship between the two people involved, though it can take that path if both people consent to that. But it's generally just kind of like you have someone on your arm and you pay them to be on your arm, and that's kind of it. It's often portrayed, especially in movies and TV shows, as like generally very lonely men go and partake in the services of hostesses because they feel very alone and they want to pay a woman to kind of adore them for a couple of hours, right? Now, Lucy Blackman was a real person, and she was British. She went to Japan and she became a hostess, and she went missing, but not only did she go missing, she was found eventually, and she was brutally murdered by a Japanese guy who had done this to other women as well. The case went on for years. I asked my mum about it and she said she remembered when it was happening. And I was quite young at that point, so obviously I didn't really know what was happening. I read a bunch of articles on what happened, and interestingly enough, one of my favourite TV shows that I've recommended on my channel before is Tokyo Vice. And Tokyo Vice is about an actual real life person who goes by the name of Jake Adelstein, who essentially became a journalist in Japan as an American man, and he got unintentionally involved in the world of Yakuza. One of the cases that Jake Adelstein worked on was the Lucy Blackman case. Now, he was reporting on that case. He, from what I understand, worked quite closely with her father, who was in Japan, you know, trying to put pressure on the police. So it was when I found out he was involved in the documentary and that it was just kind of a beginning to end of like what happened, I was super fascinated. I really wanted to watch it, and it's just absolutely fantastic. It's very sad, obviously, but I think it gives you insight into an aspect of Japanese culture that many people don't really understand, and it watches like a film. It was really well done. I think the great thing about it is that we actually got to meet a lot of the Japanese people who were working the case, but then we also hear from Lucy Blackman's father as well, and then we also get Jake from the journalism lens. So we get all the different kind of lenses covered. We get the people who are actually investigating the case, the detectives working on the case. We get the journalism angle. We get the angle from her family. And it's just such a tragic story, but it's really, really well done. And I strongly recommend it, especially if you're interested in Japanese culture. It's not to say that obviously every single hostess is necessarily going to end up in that situation, because obviously that's not true. But I think it shows you the dark side of a very accepted part of Japanese society that I think a lot of Western people don't understand. So strongly recommend that when you're feeling in the mood for something like that. Next up, we have a Korean show on Netflix, and that is The Glory. Oh man, this show is dark as hell. Like, it's super dark and it's very brutal. I think a lot of you who read like grimdark books would love this series. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's actually based on a true story about a girl who was bullied by a bunch of rich kids in her school, and she decided that she wanted to get revenge on them when she got older. I don't know how close it is to the original story, but my gosh, is this series really fucking depressing. Like, it's so sad. It doesn't hold back. Like, it's very vivid. Like, we see the scenes where the little girl is being tortured by these bullies. And, you know, it's a revenge story. So we are rooting for our main character, but at the same time, we feel for her. We don't feel pity, but we feel sorrow that she had to go through that and nobody protected her and nobody was on her side. It's just fantastic, and I strongly recommend it. It's so good. Next up, we have another Korean show. There are quite a few Korean shows on this, but I want people to watch more Korean TV shows because they're so good. Like, they're really well made in general. But the next one is also like a crime thriller kind of mystery, I don't know, yeah, mystery aspect to it, and that is Little Women, and that is also on Netflix. We are following three sisters as they all try to kind of navigate life. They don't come from a particularly well-to-do background. They don't have money. They don't have, you know, luxuries in life. One of the sisters basically gets embroiled into this very rich family, and from there, lots of stuff starts happening. That's all I'm going to say. Very, very well done series. Very dark. Not as dark as The Glory, but still very dark. It's quite creepy. And there were some surprises in this TV series that I just did not expect, which is quite rare for me. Like I can generally see what's coming, but there was one particular surprise that happened and I was like, what? I did not see that coming, but it was totally believable and it's just fantastic. The one thing that I really loved about the show is like the aesthetic value of the show. It was just so beautifully shot, the costuming, the setting, it was just fantastic. Strongly recommend. Next up, we have another Korean show, and this is a very heartfelt kind of, it's just about people living their lives. It's just about the human struggle. It's about people trying to make the best out of the bad cards that they are dealt in life. And that is My Mister, and that is also on Netflix. My Mister is a very long series, and it's one of those series where the starts off really strong. It meanders a bit in the middle, and then the ending is absolutely phenomenal. And funnily enough, when I started watching this show, I watched the first 4 episodes pretty quickly. I watched the 5th episode and then I stopped for about 3 months because I was a bit bored, because it was just kind of going through the cycles and going through the motions of life. My brother said to me, stick with it. By the time you get to episode 8 or 9, I think there's 14 episodes in total, he was like, it picks back up again and it's just exquisite. So that's what I did, and I pushed through those middle episodes, and I think they were important because I think they were very indicative of where the characters would eventually end up. But the ending of this series was just so good. It was so good. It was so satisfying to see our characters end up where they end up. And it's very realistic. I feel like a lot of people who've had hard knocks in life, and let's be honest, who hasn't had hard knocks in life, can relate to any one of the characters. It's so beautifully told. The soundtrack is amazing. The characters and the acting was fantastic. It's great. It's really great. The only thing about the series is the episodes are quite long. I would recommend just watching them in 40-minute slots, basically half the episodes, because otherwise, yeah, you might find yourself falling asleep in some of the episodes. Watching slow TV shows is fine. I just have to find the right time, because I do have quite a busy life. So watching just people living through their lives is quite a relaxing thing for me to do. It just maybe wasn't the right time when I started watching it. But I strongly recommend it because the payoff is so worth it. So worth it. Next up, we have another Korean show. I think that I only have 2 more Korean shows to recommend. I'm just going to go through line by line, and that is DP on Netflix. DP is amazing. It's about a young man who goes into the Korean army, gets enlisted into the Korean army, and he essentially becomes a part of a unit that captures defectors from the Korean army. So people who join the army but then they leave when they shouldn't leave, they run away basically, and he is tasked with finding those people. It's absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I watched season 1 earlier this year, and then season 2 came out, and it's just again, it really gives insight into what it's like to be in the army. Apparently it's a very accurate reflection of the Korean army. I think they consulted people who actually have been in the army or are in the army, and so it's a very accurate reflection of what it's like, of the kind of culture, the bully culture. I just think it was so good, so well written. The acting by the main character was phenomenal. Our surrounding cast of characters were also fantastic. Again, I think this is another one for people who like grim dark, or who like military books, or themes of war in their books. This is the sort of show that you will like, because it doesn't hold back. Very grim. It really does not hold back. You get the vividness of what is happening to our character and other characters. And it's just absolutely incredible. Strongly recommend. Very heartbreaking though. There was one episode in particular that, I had to take a walk outside because I was like, this is just so heartbreaking. It's just so good. So good. All right, we have 5 more left. The next one is a French show, and this one is also on Netflix, and that is Lupa. Lupa is a show that is based on a con man who essentially mimics Arsène Lupin, who was a character written by a French author whose name I've just completely forgotten. And he basically based his cons on this guy, and it's just so good. It's just so good. I binged the first 2 seasons within a week. It was ridiculous. I rarely do that, but I just had to watch it. And I think that's mainly because of Omar Sy. because he's so phenomenal in this role. I've seen other films of Omar Sy's before, and I just think he's such a fantastic actor. In this film, he really shines. Like, he is the kind of shining beacon of this TV show. Every single scene he is in with another character, he steals the scene. Just his like timing with how he says certain things and how he behaves is just chef's kiss. It's just perfection, absolute perfection. And I loved it. I really loved it. And it was funny, I didn't intentionally do this, but as I was watching season 2, season 3 started. All the episodes went up, so I watched season 3 as well. So for about 2 weeks I was just consumed with Lupa, and I loved it, and I really want to read some of the books now because I'm super curious. I didn't actually know Lupa and Sherlock Holmes. There's actually a crossover between the two of them, and I just love that, so I'm going to read that at some point. Strongly recommend. Then we have the next Korean one. I just realised that I put Lupin before this one, so apologies for that. We have My Liberation Notes, and this is also on Netflix. This is another show just about people who are kind of done with their very boring lives and they want to live better. They want to have better relationships, they want to have better work lives, they want to be better people, and it's just about that. It's about people wanting to be better. It's very beautifully told. It's a bit slow, but I think it needed to be for the type of story that it was telling. I think our 3 main characters are very compelling in their own ways. I think everybody will identify with one of them at least in one way or another. And it's just very heartwarming. It's just a warm hug. I think when I watched it, it was the perfect time for me to watch it because I was going through some stuff. And it really put into perspective that, you know, everybody's going through the same struggles. Humans tend to be quite selfish, I think. And I think we forget that we are not the only person going through this thing. There are millions of other people going through the same thing, maybe even billions of other people going through the same thing. So it was just beautifully told. If you want something that's a bit slower but very meaningful, quite philosophical, then I strongly recommend this one. It's also quite funny as well, so you'll find yourself laughing. The acting was also top notch. Down to the last 3. The next one is Blackbird on Apple TV+. This is an American TV show, and oh my gosh, it was so good. So good. This is a show basically following a man who is imprisoned for fraud that he has committed. He gets the opportunity to get a shortened sentence if he goes undercover into a maximum security prison and finds out something about what one of the prisoners has done. I'm not going to say what, you can find that out in the first episode, but I don't want to spoil it unintentionally. And it's just so creepy. This is very much like a psychological thriller. It's very creepy. There's a feeling of unease throughout the entire series. Taron Egerton, fantastic in this. He's also in Tetris, the movie that I recommended at the start, and he was so good in that too. And I just think he hit all the notes that he needed to hit. I think the dynamic with the guy that he's trying to get information from is just so fantastic. The guy, I've forgotten his name, but the guy who plays the prisoner, the acting was phenomenal. Like, so creepy, so weird. And it's a limited TV series, so it's very short. You know, you can watch it in a day if you so wish to. I think I watched it over a few days. But it's just, there's this constant sense of unease, and I think if you like kind of psychological thrillers, if you like crime thrillers, like, this will be the one for you. Really good, really good. Down to the last 2. The next show I watched was a show that I've generally I watch it when the season comes out, but the last season I didn't because I'd heard very mixed things about it, but then I decided to watch it when I was ill a few weeks ago, and that was The Crown season 4 and season 5, or the latest part of season 5 on Netflix. I thought it was really good. I don't get why it got so much hate. I think a lot of people who probably hate it are probably very pro-monarchy. I'm an anti-monarchist, so maybe that's why I liked it. Take away the fact that it's based on a real life people and real life events. I just think the writing, the acting, the way it's shot is just so beautifully done. There's something about The Crown that actually reminds me of the House of Cards, which House of Cards is one of my favourite shows in terms of the way that it's shot. Like, I think the way House of Cards is shot is just, it's just like a masterclass in how to create a TV show. And I think The Crown, I feel the same way about The Crown as I do about House of Cards, specifically the way that it's shot, like the cinematography. It's so captivating, and I think the performances were really captivating. I think there was a lot of emotion in this series naturally because of the topics that it's covering. But I just thought it was really good. Yeah, I think if you've never watched The Crown, but you like politics, family dramas, you like really character-driven stories, whether you care about the monarchy or not, the British monarchy or not, I strongly recommend it just for the storytelling alone because it's fantastic. And then last but most certainly not least, we have a show that I wasn't intending to watch because I wanted to read the book first, but I decided to watch the show because let's be honest, I'm not going to get to the book anytime soon, and that is Lessons in Chemistry on Apple TV+. Now, this is based on the book by Bonnie Garmus. Lots of people raved about this book when it came out last year. I think I remember it being on everybody's list. Everybody loved it, and I've heard really good things about the book, and I will read it. I do have it. It's just a matter of when, not if. But my gosh, the TV series was so good. It was so good. You know, it's a drama. It's really about this woman trying to find her place in a society that doesn't accept people like her. It's really about like human struggle. It's about human relationships. It's just about all the things that I love in my TV shows and in my books. And it was just really, really well done, like really well done. And the pacing of the series was really good. I just loved all the characters. I was really rooting for all of our characters, at least like our main characters. So I just thought it was a good time. Like, you don't have to think too hard, but like it's meaningful, but it's not like too intense that you have to like really think about it. Like, it's just got like a really good mixture of different things, and I just think it's fantastic, and I strongly recommend it, and I think you should all watch it. So there we go. Those are the TV shows that I've watched over the last, like, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, and that I've really enjoyed. Let me know down below if there's any shows that you've watched, and I will definitely check them out. Thanks for watching, folks. Stay safe as always. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.